Hello, welcome to another tutorial at my blog. I'm Lisa Christensen over at maydreamrose.com, where I like to share my watercolor and my cards, and it's just fun to pop in. So thank you for joining me, and I thought I'd give you this really cute tutorial on how I made this. I got this watercolor panel from Memory Bounds. It's our local scrapbooking store in the Des Moines area, and I just love it. It is so cute. I love how you can paint it, and I'm going to show you how I did it. So let's get started. All right, here is the smaller version as like a 12 by 12 piece. I thought this would be a cute Christmas gift to give to somebody. So it's not as big as the 11 by 14 one, but it's still super cute. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a size 6 round brush, and I like this tip. It's perfect for watercolor. Any size, any round size, medium size brush will work. This one's a bit smaller than some of the other ones, and I will also be using a smaller size, a size 2, maybe a size 8, a bigger size brush, but as long as you have whatever paintbrush you like. And then I have a script or a liner brush that I may or may not use. So let's get started. I spray this again. I'm going to use my Kuretake Gansai Tamba watercolor. Gansai Tambi watercolor from Kuretake. And I like to start, again, I always go with a lighter layer first. And since I really want the green, I'm not going to start with yellow. I'm going to start with a lighter muted green. And what I do, and sometimes, so here's my size 8 brush. I'm going to get this wet just a tiny bit. I want it to be a tiny bit wet. And I'm going to work in sections. I'm not going to do it like all at once. I'm going to work in sections so I really get what I want. And I'm wetting it. So you just want to, and you can start wherever. You don't have to start. I just decided to start here. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm just kind of adding some pigment to the water. And then I like to go outside the lines a bit. And then when I think that that's good, I will come back in with my dry brush, and I'll just kind of, I want the paper to show through. I know watercolor, it's opaque, so the beauty of watercolor is that you see the paper, and you do want that, and you want to see that beautiful water, and then you just let it be. You're going to let it dry. And then I'll go to the next section with my clear brush. And I'm kind of paying attention where the lights are. It's not going to be a huge deal. If you get a wet spot on your paper, just mop it up with a dry brush, like what I'm doing. And then you won't have that. And then you go back in with your brush and you just paint a little bit more. And right now we're just getting the underpainting done. And I'm not, you know me, I don't like to fuss. I just do what I can and let the watercolor do its work. And that's the beauty of it. And I'm really just playing. The nice thing about watercolor is that watercolor goes where water is. So if you don't have water, it's not going to move there. And people always say, oh, watercolor is so hard. Well, it doesn't have to be. It's only hard if you don't know where your water is. If you know where your water is, then you know where it's going and where it's not going to go. And so I know where the water is going, so I know, yeah. And I'm going to let that be a little bit darker because I want a lot of different shades. But since this is just the underpainting, we got lots of extra time to figure that out. And if you had a bigger brush, you could totally add the water with a bigger brush. But isn't that fun? Look at that. And I'm getting a bunch of shades of this one green. This is number 54 if you're following along and painting with me. And you see how dark that is. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit or get more water on my brush. I also have a palette that sometimes I like to dab the water just so I don't have as much pigment. There, that's better. And like I said, I can always go back in and mop up some of it and add it to somewhere else, which as a watercolorist you can do that because it's your painting. Do what you want. There we go. See, and once you start, it's really, there's not a whole lot, there's no pressure here. And there really shouldn't be any like, oh no, I'm going to mess it up. You're not going to mess it up. Watercolor, even if it looks like you messed it up, people are going to think, oh, she did that on purpose. Maybe. I like to tell myself that. I don't know if that really works, but it's really a fun time. Anyways. And I'm just doing this throughout the whole thing. There's no, you can paint, like you see there's green in some of my lights, and that's okay. That's part of it. And if you can't see the water, you can always tilt the lamp that you're, or a light source, or tilt your paper and say, okay, now I see where the water is. And that is just a little bit too much, so I'm gonna maybe tone it. Share the love, share the green. Okay. And I like having a different variety of colors. I know that you just want a variety of values and see where it takes you. And plus, this is just the underpainting. You can see that this is a lot lighter now because it's drying. And you, with the brush strokes, when you do watercolor really does, your brush strokes matter. It might not look like it right now, but if I were to go horizontal with my brush strokes, the painting's gonna look completely off. The paint is gonna go where the strokes were made. And so you don't want to go back this way, even though it's an underpainting, and you're not gonna, you will see, you'll notice the difference. And then sometimes you just let the brush do its thing. It works. There's not a whole lot of, it's gonna look funny right now because it's an underpainting. It's not supposed to look finished. It's supposed to look kind of messy and not quite right. If it doesn't look quite right, then you're doing something right. Because this isn't looking pretty, but it will in a second. And I probably could have used a bigger brush, but at this point I'm gonna keep going with this brush. You can always you can always add more water. You can't take away the water once it's on. You can with a dry brush, but you can't take away the pigment once it's on there. It's harder to get that perfect tone. Okay, so this is the rest of that is ready to paint. And I just love it. You can kind of see it. I just love how the water just kind of spreads and does its thing, and you don't have to really mess with it. And I'm paying attention. I do want some white space in here. I don't want to make it completely just green all the time. That won't look interesting. So I do kind of look around to see, oh, where do I want to leave my white space? There we go. Okay, so you can see, all right, so now when it's still just a tiny bit wet, I'll go in with a darker color. I'm going to choose 56. That seems to be the best dark green. And I'm just going to add just a tiny bit to the branches when it's still a little bit wet. I'm going to create some blooms. When it's just a little bit wet and you add more water, you create some blooms, and that's okay. Like with floral, and I like blooms. It depends on what you're going for, but like landscapes. And I'm just using my brush. I'm just kind of sketching. I'm going with the lines. Wherever the lines are, that's where I'm going. I'm not making extra lines for myself. Just wherever I see the lines, I'm not painting over the lines, but I'm just using the same direction. And if I get into the lights, that's okay, because the lights are going to be in a pearl or metallic color, and the metallic color always sits on top of the watercolor, which is kind of nice to know, because you can paint over it and then the metallic will sit on top. And so I'm really not thinking about this. I'm just going with it. I know it sounds harder than it it's easier than it looks. Or so I say. I don't know. Some people might disagree with me. Okay, and I may have to wait because now I'm getting a little bit too what? And I always like to stay darker towards the vine or towards the branch, and then lighter as you're moving out. So that's why I'm always going towards the direction of its growing. So it grows on a tree, right? You start at the trunk and then you work your way out. So if you're on a branch, you work at the part, whatever the part of where it branches out, and then you go back, because then you get a little line like that. And it's all on your brush strokes, and so thick and then thin, pressure and then less pressure. And that's what I'm doing. It's not it takes some practice. It's not a hard thing to do, but it does take some practice. And then when you get really good at it, you can just do kind of what I'm doing, and it is, I'm just swiping it through. Okay. And then with that, since it's pretty wet, I'm just gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna let it naturally, organically. See, so always wherever. There we go. I'm gonna add a little bit more like this. And now, because I want it to look like there's a little bit of brown, I'm not gonna use brown. I'm gonna use a red, and I'll probably use I'm going to use this 36, and I'm only going to use a tiny bit. I don't need very much. And I'm just going to kind of dab it in. I know it's going to look really, really a lot, but once we get some more green in it, it will look perfect. And I want some accents. See how the green and the red, when I put it just makes it look brown, and that's what you want. There, see, it's turning. Isn't that cool how green just makes the red tone? And you don't want a whole lot of red. You want it sporadically. If I were to draw a whole line around it, it wouldn't look natural. It would look like it was like someone did that on purpose. And you don't want that. You want it to look natural. And so anytime you can add just a tiny bit of red to your painting is a good thing. And then, yeah, I'm not loving that part right there. So I'm gonna, there you go. That's better. All right, and then this is looking pretty dark. I'm gonna, again, lighten that up too. The nice thing about watercolor, the thing I love about watercolor is the translucency, and I want the paper to show through. I don't want it to look like a acrylic painting. I want it to look like a watercolor. And so then if I see some lines, some harsh lines, I can go in and just clean them up a little bit like that. And then it looks more like a watercolor. I see one over here too that I just want to fix. I just don't like that. And then what I'll probably do is when it's dry, I'll go in with my favorite starry colors. Oops. See if I can't get that off. That'll probably be hid with a mat, but you never know. Might want it to show. Okay, so then when this is all dried, or which it won't take very much time because I didn't use that much water. I like using these starry colors, and I love blue gold for this because I'm using a green and there's some blues hue to it. If you like the red gold, to me I felt like that was too dramatic, and the light gold was just not enough. So I really like the blue gold for this, but I love it because it's the cooler tone, cooler hue to it. So it's not going to warm up the wreath, the color temperature. Anyways, it's good stuff. And these are Starry Colors by Kiritaki. And I'm just using a size 8. And wherever I think, remember I started at the branch and work my way out, and I'm just going to lightly add some. And you're not going to notice a whole lot until it dries, and then once it dries, it's going to dry metallic-y, and it's going to look just gorgeous. You're going to think, oh my gosh, it's so cool. It is. It's really a fun paint. Yeah, Memory Bounds has a wonderful printer where you can print on this and print like 12 by 12 pieces of scrapbook paper, and they have cute little quotes and things for scrapbook paper to just put in a frame, and then you can frame it in your house and it looks like you spent a lot of time on it, or that a graphic designer did it. And you can say, well, I picked out the paper and the quote and it's there. Anyway, so they did this to watercolor paper, and I just love that I can paint and not worry about the type, because as much as I love typography and I've spent years working on typography, it's not my favorite. It's not my thing to spend a day working on quotes and getting things. Anyways, I again have this like layer of 3 paints going on. That's like, if you do more than 3 layers, you kind of lose the prettiness to watercolor. 3 colors, 3 layers, 3 colors. And like, do you see how that's just shining? It's so pretty. It's my favorite. I just love this. I just love it with just 3 colors, 3 hues. You can really make some beautiful artwork. And really, like, I'm just following where the lines are. So the work is done for you. You just have to color. It's very much like a coloring page. You just have to play around. And I will say, like, every time I do something like this, I always have an exercise first. And that exercise always seems to help. Sometimes when I clean out my brushes, because I have some green on my brush and I don't want green, I just want the metallic color. So I clean out my brush so I don't get the metallic colors muddy. I want the blue gold metallic colors to be as pure as possible. And this painting is considered a wet until wet painting because I never really let it dry. You can let it dry if you wanted to, but you know, me and my patience. I don't have much of those patience. I think some people do. I don't. I just want to get this painting done and get it on a frame and be done with it. But man, isn't this pretty? Just adding a little bit of green and lines to it just really sets off the whole painting, and it's just so fun. Okay, that's looking good. I'm going to let that be. Now I can work on my lights. I always like to do my lights last. And like I said, the metallic paint will sit up above the pigment. And I always like to choose a side. I'm going to choose like the left side and start there. depending sometimes. And then I'll take my other brush, a clean wet brush, and then I'm just gonna guide that metallic to where I want it to go. And then if I wanted to add a little bit more, I could. You always, as an artist, you're always looking, okay, where do I want my light source to be? It doesn't have to be perfect or exact, but you do want to be cautious of where your light source is. You don't want, you want it to look, you want your painting to look unified. Or like this light bulb, I'm painting all gold because I don't, that one just needs it. And you're the artist, you get to do what you want. It's kind of fun. Now, like with this, I don't necessarily want the gold to be all over the writing, so I'm gonna mop it up a little bit. And this would look fun with a different color, with like red and yellow and blue and green lights, but I wanted to keep it fairly elegant, and I really wanted a simple color palette. I didn't want to go all crazy on the color palette. So I chose greens and then golds, which is looking pretty cool, I think. Now with this, I don't really want the green to bleed in, so I'm just doing the tip because I don't want the green to bleed in at this point. And I'm not going to use much water here because I don't want the green to be reactivated and then bleed into the metallic. And I'm just smoothing it out. If I paint it outside the lines, you can always go in with a brush and clean that up. And so I see that there's some green on this, which is fine. I'm going to keep it. I thought about taking it off, but I'm going to leave it. Oh, that's looking really cool. I'm really liking this. And then once you put it in a frame, you can still see the metallic. It's just so fun. This is such a fun project to work on for Christmas presents or for just a home deck project if you're wanting to do something. And the work is already done for you, so it's like a coloring book page. And if you're worried about, oh, I'm going to mess it up and I'm not going to be able to put it in a frame or whatever, practice on a sheet of paper. I just practiced my lines and I just kept playing, and then once you get it figured out, then you can play. So I always like to practice, and that was my warm-up before I started this, was to just warm up and play. There's no wrong or right way to do it. It's fun. There we go. And that is how we make a beautiful wall hanging. And there you go. It's done. I'm calling it done. I'm not gonna do anything more to it. If you wanted to, you could go back in with a dark green with a linear script and just get in and just kind of define a couple lines if you wanted to. But I don't think you have to. It will add a little bit to it, and I might just to add some lines just to give it more of a different definition. And sometimes it's fun to just play around. But if you don't have one of these script brushes, don't worry about it. It's not going to make or break your painting. It's just a fun way to add some texture and some character to your painting. And I don't want that. And then see, I'm just going to do short little marks right here and then go in and Yeah, and you don't want to do the whole, all of it. This is just to, you know, I might do just like 1, 2, 3, or 4. There you go. 2, there's a couple on each side, and it's dark green. This is number 53. Nope, sorry, 54. If you're painting along with me. And this is a fun process because you just gotta add the small details that kind of make the painting. It's fun. And I'm almost done. I'm gonna call this almost done when it just adds an extra element. But you don't wanna overdo it. You don't wanna overwork it. As soon as you think it's done, stop. Don't keep going. So only 2 or 3 at a time, 2 or 3 brush strokes per thing. And then I've got this right here, and then I'm done. I'm calling it good. And then it's fun because you can really get in there and just make long brush strokes like pine needles would have. Anyways, I don't mind going into, there you go, there. Now it's done. Now it looks like there's some darks and some lights, and it looks like you know how to paint, and you do. This is beautiful, right? And it's a simple, all it is lines. You're just painting a whole bunch of lines. And when you look at watercolor as painting lines instead of painting a subject, it like opens up a whole new possibility because you're painting lines. You're not painting a pine needles, you're painting lines, and that always helps. So anyways, enjoy this. I hope you can go to Memory Bounds and get it. I bought this for, it was $4.99 at Memory Bounds. It was in their Christmas section and their watercolor section. Don't know exactly where to go, but isn't that perfect for a gift or for your home? So I can't wait to get a frame for it to hang it up, and or to give it to someone. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's such a fun one. So anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.